All right. Well, there we go. This is a new version of Master Motivation today on a Wednesday. I have 7 special guests today, and these are all AKMF, American Krav Maga Federation school owners. And I'm just going to introduce each one of them. We got Mr. Mark Cox from Chatsworth Karate. We have Mr. Carson Fortner from Pooler in Georgia. We got John Vaverka from Citadel Krav Maga in Santa Clarita. Brandon Kemmer from Cutting Edge Karate and Krav Maga in Woodland Hills. We have Mr. Jay Walker from Simi Valley Krav Maga. And we have Robert Edelman from Ventura Krav Maga and the Way of Orient. And we have Mr. Chris Crouch from Burbank Krav Maga. We got a lot of guests today. I've never done this before. 8 people all here at once. But thank you guys all for joining me. Good to see everybody. And I'm just going to throw out a couple questions, and those of you that are watching live maybe have your own questions, but this is just an opportunity for some of you to get to know some of our school owners and just ask any questions you like. So, my first question will just be a very simple, easy question. If you can tell us how long you've been in the martial arts, how you got started in the martial arts, just a brief story on that. So, Mr. Cox, why don't you get started?
Why do you got to pick on the old guy first? You know what I mean? See, probably 1982, 83 is when I started. Black belt, my first black belt in 87. I got started because my brother came home and said he was taking martial arts at the time. And he said he can get out of bear hugs, and I'm much bigger than my brother. And I picked him up, and he headbutted me from behind. And I said, I can't have that. So I joined in with him, and that's kind of how my journey started in the martial arts.
So you're going on like 40 years in the martial arts. 40 years.
You're such a dick. You are such a dick.
But I mean, yeah. It's a long time.
It is. Yes.
Hey, Carson, how about you? When did you get started in martial arts? How long you been involved?
I started when I was 6 years old in a small town. I've been doing it for 28 years now. And very interesting, the instructor that I was training under, one day just up and left, everything gone out of the school, bam, nowhere. So I think that's one thing that's always motivated me to be a good school owner is I never wanted to do that to any of my students. So that's my background 28 years ago. I had my first board, and on it, it's very, 80s, 90s. It's very 90s. It says, don't do drugs.
Good advice. Hey, John, how about you? Tell us about your background. How long you been in the martial arts?
So I started doing martial arts 2002 when I was in the Marines. I started on the Marine Corps martial arts program. Kind of took a break after the Marines, and then about 3 years later, actually ended up in Mr. Crouch's program for Krav Maga, and then just been doing it ever since. So, on and off 10, 12 years, totally active.
Very cool. Very cool. Mr. Walker.
1985 is when I started. January, I think around this time, January of 1985.
So about 40 years.
See, for the people watching, I'm not going to say anything right now. But yeah, I started in 1985, and I didn't go for my black belt till 1990.
Okay. All right.
Cool. I really haven't had to stop.
I think that we probably talked about this when we did our interview back a bit ago, but that's actually the year that I started was 1985, and when I started in Tong Soo Do and didn't get my black belt. About 40 years ago. Yep. And I'm only 42. No, but that's pretty cool. We all been training a little bit. Robert, Mr. Edelman, what's your background?
Yeah, so I started in my very first certificate says 1990, and that was with Mr. Cox when I was testing for, I guess, my yellow belt. So I was about 5 years old, and what got me into martial arts, I guess, and vaguely remembers this is that I was a bully. And I was a bully in kindergarten. I would bully some of the boys, hanging out with the girls I thought were pretty. And my mom, was a young, 16, 17 when she had me. So she was a young parent, but she ended up putting me in karate. And a lot of people thought that I would just learn how to fight better and be more of a bully. But Mr. Cox kind of took things a whole different direction. So I've been doing martial arts for, I guess you can say, almost 30 years now. So, yeah.
All right, Mr. Crouch.
So I started kind of like John. I started when I was in the military. In '94, I was stationed up in Monterey, and I started doing a Japanese style jiu-jitsu when I was up there. Did that while I was stationed there, and then traveled around, took some time off, and then in 2008, on April 24th of 2008, about a month and a half after my wife and I got married, that's when she and I went in for our first class with Master Cox, and we're now coming up on 14 years of me being under Master Cox.
Yeah.
Brandon, I don't know if your audio was out for a minute, but maybe you heard the question. We're just kind of giving everybody our background. Can you tell everybody when you started martial arts and how or why you started martial arts?
Yeah, I started up at the church at Rocky Peak. Mr. Cox was doing I think it was free at the time, but a free church program up at the church at Rocky Peak. And I was sick, so I didn't have any input in it. My parents just put me in martial arts and said, "Hey, you're going to do this." And so 6 years old, I got my black belt at 10 years old, and then started Travis, my brother, started a studio. Around when I was around 17, and I got back into the martial arts a little later, and then about 5 or 6 years ago, I started Krav Maga with Mr. Cox because I just wanted to up my self-defense game, and I didn't have any intention of doing any promotions or anything like that. I just wanted to just learn some skills, and once I started doing that, I started really liking it. And Mr. Cox is like, "What are you doing, man? Like, you can't just come to class and like not promote, right?" And I was like, "Okay." And it's like, "You're testing on Saturday," and I had like a week to prepare for my first test, and that test was brutal. But yeah, I'm so glad that I got started because Krav Maga has completely changed my martial arts.
Yeah, I think I've heard that before too. You're testing. That's
You're
the
right.
bottom line. I don't want to hear anything different. Brandon, you and I share that same thing in common as well. That I didn't really have a choice of getting involved in martial arts. I was 10, and my mom was the one that put me in martial arts. She actually wanted to do martial arts her whole life, and her parents said she couldn't for whatever reason, and she vowed that when she had kids that she would put them in martial arts. And right around the Karate Kid time is when I got involved. So again, some similarities there. One thing across the board, as everybody's listening, is that everybody's connection is through Mr. Cox, whether it's through Krav Maga or it's originally in Tong Soo Do and then moving into Krav Maga. So since this call is focused on the American Krav Maga Federation and our schools and what our mission is, Mr. Cox, can you kind of explain what your thoughts were behind creating the AKMF, what your goals are for the organization, and what it represents and stands for?
Well, yes, because back when we were with Worldwide, and then when Worldwide kind of split and we went with the alliance with John Whitman and stuff like that, Bo and I looked really intent on what it looked like, these organizations look like. And I'm not taking nothing away from them. It's just because without either one of them, none of us would be here, especially Worldwide where they started. And it was an experience, but something that we wanted to grow off of from there, and being able to break off and have our own thing. And we had some, to be honest with you, we didn't look. I didn't see this in the future. We had a few. I had a few. Bo had a few people that got black belts with him, and I had a few at the time, and we just started this thing because we wanted to grow from the inside out, not from the outside in, and have this have roots that were kind of in Israel, and that's where we found Danny Hazan, and I saw that we started to kind of grow this thing. And I think really when I wanted to see something with AKMF is when I watched when my nephew died, the firefighter, and I went to his funeral, and the brotherhood that was nothing like I have seen before, right? He's laying on his deathbed, and they're keeping him alive so he can harvest his organs. That's what he wanted, right? And while he's laying on his deathbed, he's got firefighters that are working his shift so he can still get a paycheck. I mean, I just the camaraderie was something I'd never seen. And I wanted that. I just thought that you group of guys, you guys have all been with me. You're correct. I mean, all you guys, our connection is together. And some of you since you're little kids, and others came along as adults. But, all of you guys are men of integrity and men of passion. And I said, this group can do the same thing. And it was evident when John got sick, what it looks like when people come together of a common cause with integrity to help one another. And that's kind of really what I wanted out of it. And as we continue to grow, that's still kind of my goal.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And you brought up Bo DeRocher. He's in Idaho, and we cannot not mention Nathan Carlin, who's been integral in the formation of our program and brought a lot to it. We have schools in Hawaii. We have schools in Santa Barbara. Splinters of schools through our organization. So I mean, it's definitely something that has grown over time and over the years. Like Brandon said in the beginning, I never really had any intention of testing in Krav Maga. It was not my goal to earn my belt in Krav Maga. But when I saw something that was missing from our school, not only the self-defense aspect, but the coming together of schools is what kind of drew me in a little bit more, because, all of these men on this video right now are people that I have had the privilege to train with. And like you said, with John, we jump in and help. I had the privilege of going and teaching at his school. Just that camaraderie has really gotten stronger over the years. And I think it's because we train together, and the more we train together, Chris came out to my school just a week ago, which I thought was super awesome. So, things like that really make the organization strong, and I think it will continue to grow that way. I want to touch on real quick John and Chris, because if I'm not mistaken, the only two in this group that have served in the military. What was it like coming in from a military background into an organization and learning Krav Maga? And what did you take from your military experience into teaching, training, and running your schools? Let's start with Chris first.
So I'm always really upfront about my military service. I went in '94. I got out in 2000. So I am pre 9/11. All of my service is pre 9/11. But that being said, so I, no combat experience or anything like that. But even what Mr. Cox was saying a second ago about just that camaraderie with the firefighters, even with my job, it was the exact same thing. We were tight. I mean, we deployed together. Luckily, my deployments, sorry, John, they weren't to Iraq. All my deployments were to Suda Crete, going to Germany every night. It was pretty cool like that. But just that tight camaraderie was one of the things that when I got out, I missed, but also that sense of purpose. When I got out, I mean, I started, I was like a bartender and a barista, started working for Citibank, but it was a lot of jobs that just didn't have a mission, didn't have a purpose. And so when I started training with Master Cox, shortly thereafter, I mean, I'm talking within like a month, maybe even just a couple of weeks, I looked at my wife and my wife Patty, and I was like, at some point, I'm going to teach this. And then from there, just the mentorship from Master Cox, as far as, he knew I wanted to teach eventually. And so he started helping me with that. And when we opened up the school, and so as far as like what I brought from the military, it was, I think it's that sense of pride, that sense of honor, and just that common goal, and that having that common mission and trying to move forward like that. I think that's really one of the things that from my military experience I was able to bring into my school. So I think that's it for me. What about you, John?
Yeah, so outside the military, it's really hard to find camaraderie. I've worked different jobs, different companies, Fortune 500, Fortune 700 companies, and going into this profession, professionalism is a must, right? And so that's the one thing I can definitely say that transfers well from the military to martial arts is a sense of discipline, right? Camaraderie is a big thing, because either way, there are moments where there is a big suck. You're either sucking wind, you're in pain, injuries happen, injuries occur. And like, Mr. Cox and you were saying, with the camaraderie and everyone coming together, it's like if someone's injured, people back each other up. The military, it's the same thing. As far as like my experience goes, bringing stuff from my personal experience, in Krav Maga, aggression's huge, right? And so understanding violence, there's violence is violence, right? But there's like, you know, that street violence, you know, there's that combat violence. Having a different understanding of combat violence and street violence, this is where I get to talk to Mr. Carlin about a little bit. You know, he's had his fair share of you know, violence, being a bouncer and stuff like that. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's like, if you're aggressive, right? Mr. Cox will talk about it all the time. If you're aggressive, you'll win that fight, right? And so, you know, going from the military to civilian jobs to this profession, you know, I will definitely say getting to train warriors and looking at it that way fills a huge gap, you know, because when you go from kicking in doors and blowing charges and firing down range, and this is all you do, you know, you get to do all this cool stuff, and then, you know, you don't get to do it anymore. Going into martial arts, and especially Krav, you know, because there's gun disarms, and then now you're starting to blend the two together, and you're starting to like pick up your firearm training again, right? It blends really well, you know. So I have a couple guys under me that are Marines also. You know, I got a Rod, you know, and Stephen Rich, you know. Steven's a different era than I am even. You know, I joke with him. I'm like, man, dude, I was like, you know, you were an under, you know, I say underoos, but he was like, what are underoos? Showing a little bit of age. But he was like, you know, I was doing stuff when he was a little kid, you know, and he was in Afghanistan, you know, I think in the later half of 2010, 2012, 2016 or something like that, you know, and we were talking about it. He gets to train warriors now. And when I put it that way to him, he was like, this is what I want to do. And now he's looking at opening up his own school.
Wow.
Yeah, this is crazy because, you know, we started training together at Chris's school. Right. And so now he's like going to be like a 4th, 5th generation guy, you know, and spreading. Yeah. So, you know, getting to train warriors and then getting to train warriors who want to become instructors and other school owners is kind of crazy. You know, Chris got to see it with me, and Mr. Cox got to see it with Chris and you and Carson and everybody else. So, you know, it's that tribal mentality that I get to bring from the military, because that's exactly what happens. You build your guys the way you want it done, and the legacy continues. So
you brought up a good point, and something that I learned that I don't know that I ever really thought about this. I interviewed Bill Clark on Monday, and something that he said, if you build instructors typically don't quit. So if you make everybody an instructor, you're gonna have a student for a lifetime. And so I was like, well, that's kind of cool, because the goal of his organization, or the organization that he was part of, the ATA, that was our goal, was to build instructors, you know, and the more instructors they have, the more students they keep for a long term. So I thought that was kind of cool. The rest of us, you know, have roots in the traditional martial arts, mostly for the majority of us in Tong Soo Do, in American Tong Soo Do. But Jay, coming from a traditional background and in a different realm of martial arts, what was it like getting involved in Krav Maga for you?
I had to unmute for a second.
That's okay.
I think for me, what made it easier was my first style was Kyokushin, and Kyokushin is a hard Japanese style. And these guys do 100 men kumite all the time before they go to black belt, training outside all the time. So a lot of the aggression was still there. It really helped. I actually seeked out Krav Maga because after doing my last cage fight, I wanted something different. I just didn't want a referee in there with me at all times, especially after you get headbutted and you keep fighting. And that's how I got into Krav Maga. The correlation for me was, number one, I want to use my aggression. I want to use my techniques that I learned from traditional techniques, from traditional martial arts. But I wanted to put it in a format to where I can use it in any self-defense situation. You know, from different styles, from either Kyokushin or Taekwondo, we learned one steps. We learned how to work with each other. From Hanmudo and Judo, which is the Korean version of Judo and Aikido, I learned all my throws and everything. But it's a lot different when your partner is being helpful with everything. It looks pretty then. It's nothing pretty when you have somebody charging at you, doesn't give a shit if they're going to try to hit you or not, and you got to try to throw them, or you got to try to defend them. That's where the aggression, like John was talking about, comes in. I think they go hand in hand. The main thing, as most like said, everybody on the panel here is, we have traditional backgrounds. If you start a new system like we did, you got to be humble. You can't go in there thinking you know it. You've got to be able to change. You got to be able to mold and recreate yourself. And I think that part from traditional martial arts was a key, because when I told you guys I started in 85, I didn't get my black belt till 1990. I didn't get my first belt for the first year, and that had to do with my ego, because I thought I could take on everybody in the school. I think I can fight. I felt good about that. and I was held back because of my ego. Humility, I started to learn, is one of the main keys of martial arts.
Yeah, very true. Carson, you came from the Tong Sudo background and you transitioned into making Krav Maga part of your school, and you're being in a completely different state. Most of us here are very close in relationship distance with Mr. Cox. How did that transition happen for you?
Well, I'm laughing. Master Cox already knows the answer, but so like to be honest, traditional martial arts has always been where my heart is. Like I was bullied as a kid. I'm sure that's a lot of people, and I like traditional martial arts, and I wanted to. So I started training in a school in Georgia, and worked for a guy for a very long time. Then ended up opening my own school, and I had always, like, as a kid. I mean, I was a kid. You look up to your instructor.
Hmm.
Like, you look up to your instructor. It's almost, I mean, let's be honest, it's almost like your dad. You know what I mean? You look up to your dad. And so, I based my training, everything I did, off of the instructors I learned from. And we had this awesome Krav Maga instructor in the school I grew up in, named Todd Mashburn, which Master Cox knows. They trained a lot together. And so, I learned how, like, I molded how I taught based off of some of how aggressive he was, and how straight to the point he was. I always liked that. And when I opened my school in Pooler, there was no question, like, that's who needed to be there to do a Krav program in my school. So I focused on the traditional martial arts for a very long time. And then it got to the point where the Krav instructor wanted to start his own program, which is understandable. And so, I pretty much had to step up for the students in Pooler, and Master Cox. It was something he wanted me to do. So, he wanted to come down. So he literally came down for, I don't know, every 2 or 3 months, and put in a lot of one-on-one time with me. And then, and me and my partner was David Clifton. If you guys have ever met him, he's a pretty awesome guy. And so Master Cox would come down, and we would train all the time. And as far as teaching, just off of what I'd seen when I was a kid, I will be honest, I thought at first, like, Krav would be, as a traditional martial artist, it might be easier for me to fall in. But like you guys said, it's all a mentality. Krav is a mentality. And to keep that kind of intensity and make your students that intense for that long a time is that's what makes Krav Maga. And I think that's why not anybody can just be a Krav Maga instructor, because you have to have that intensity, that energy the entire time. And so, that was something that really I enjoyed seeing. And I enjoyed seeing the program go from basically before I got my black belt, we pretty much had almost no students. So from going from no students, training with Master Cox very consistently, and now the program probably has, I think, 90 to 100 students in my Krav Maga program, and that's adults only. There's no kids in there. And so to see it grow based off of what Master Cox taught me, and based off of what I learned in the other instructors I learned in the past, man, it's just been awesome to see it grow into something way bigger.
Yeah, yeah. It's all. I mean, everybody's school seems to be growing a bit, especially in that adult market, because that's really where it sits. But we have, several schools here that also have their kids program too, which we'll talk about in a minute. But Robbie, Brandon, and I came up as literally as kids under Mr. Cox, and for me, the transition to Krav Maga was simple in some ways, because the mentality, as we all talk about, what has always been part of how Master Cox taught. So when we did self-defense, our self-defense was always different than the majority of other schools. It was always looking for that next level of reality-based training and self-defense, and stuff that wasn't just pretty, but really, really worked well. And I remember, our first, well, at least my first test was probably the hardest thing that I've ever had to do physically in martial arts. I had, a student from Colorado come out and do the cauldron, and like, he literally, he fights professionally, and he's a competitor, and he's in great shape. And I put him through that cauldron on his black belt test, and he about threw up and said it was the hardest thing he's ever done. Which, by the way, Mr. Cox, I think he's coming out to test for yellow belt in March. So
Oh,
So everybody will get to have fun with Kevin. Kevin might be watching, so I just called you out, Kev. But yeah, for me, the transition was not. I wasn't ever ready though. I don't know why I wasn't ready to commit because there he is. He said, "Yes, sir." He's in. So yeah, I wasn't ready, and I don't know why because I felt like I was already a part of it. But then when I made the commitment to do the yellow belt test, it was pretty much it was go time from there. So yeah, Mr. Edelman, why don't you jump in and tell us your transition because you did Hapkido, Taekwondo, as well as Tong Sudo, and then of course you teach in Krav Maga. So how was the transition for you?
So for me, and kind of like what you said, so I started with Mr. Cox when I was a little kid, and if you guys all know Mr. Cox's, the way he operates and teaches, he's always had the same mindset. So it's always been very aggressive. I remember being a kid doing one steps, and it wasn't, I'm not knocking it, but
I'm
it
a
wasn't
teddy bear
easy
guy.
one steps. It's always explosive. We were doing groin kicks when I was 5, 6. So,
hey, but you didn't have to take falls on concrete floors and basketball courts. So be lucky.
Right. So, I mean, after the Northridge earthquake, of course, I moved to Ventura and I trained at almost all the other schools in Ventura County, found a good school that I liked. And that's the one I own and operate now. But when later on, I've been, back and forth reaching to Mr. Cox, been connected with him one way or the other. Even if it was MySpace, if it was emails, magazines, his Break-In Championship magazines. I would call him once in a while when I was a teenager, ask how he's doing. He swears to God that I tried to compete against him. I would have never said that. Anywho,
he did.
So my thing is that, I'm not one-dimensional, and I reached out to Mr. Cox and I said, hey, look, I am now the owner of this martial arts school in Ventura. It's always been a dream of mine, a goal of mine to be a martial arts school owner, but I just couldn't keep teaching a traditional martial art. And I actually saw Mr. Cox teach a few Krav classes before, maybe 5 years ago, like in 2012, 2011. I came down to the school, watched Nathan. I saw Bo. This is when Bo was still teaching for Mr. Cox. And I'm like, man, this is amazing. One day I want to do this. Long story short, I think I started in 2015 with Mr. Cox with Krav. And again, the mindset was the same. But for an example, I mean, we all learned how to throw punches, and my punches were incorrect. I remember Mr. Cox like, hey, throw a jab or throw a cross. And I'm throwing this elbow sticking out. And long story short, it really opened up my eyes to self-defense. And now, I mean, even when I'm teaching my traditional martial arts to younger kids, I have a similar Krav aspect, but it's not Krav Maga. So, I'm teaching little kids how to shell. We're practicing a little bit more groin kicks. But so it really helped out my school and the way, I teach, the way we're explosive, very, serious about these types of things. But yeah, Krav's really, I personally, for myself, it's changed me. It changed my school. And then the way, I think about martial arts, being explosive, being aggressive, all that good stuff. So, yeah.
Cool. Hey, let me just jump in here real quick because one of our guests has got to take off. I want to thank John Vaverka for being on, and we're all happy that you're still alive and kicking because you went through a rough battle there. So good to see you back, and can't wait for you to whoop our ass on the mat a little bit.
Yeah, right. Right now, everyone clear me out right now. But just thank you. I just want to say thank you for having me on, and it was awesome being on with everybody at the same time. So it's cool sharing the same seat. So I'll see you guys soon.
All right, take care. All right, so Brandon, let's let you tell your story about how Krav Maga came into your life and how you transitioned from Tong Sudo to adding it as part of your school and your program.
Definitely, yeah. I think for me, I would say, I mean, if you've seen any of my black belt tests as a Tong Sudo practitioner, I'm very performative in my martial arts, and switching gears in my mind, going from kind of thinking of karate, even though I came from Mr. Cox, who has a self-defense first mindset, I think that I was viewing karate a little bit more of like more on the art side of things. And And so once I started Krav Maga, it was kind of hard for me to switch those gears and go into that. Just we're strictly doing self-defense. This isn't performance anymore. This is just like save your life, throw strong, hit hard, all that kind of stuff. So for me, it was, it took me a little while to switch those gears a little bit in my mind. And I think that, like I said at the beginning, that really transformed my martial arts, and it needed that transformation to happen, because now I still can do the performance side of things, but
He's cutting out a little bit since he's driving, so I'll just step in for a second, and I will tell you firsthand that he has 100% changed gears, because having been his partner on every one of his black belt tests and most of our ranks coming up, he had no problem, getting aggressive and being physical. Brandon, I'll let you finish up since you're back on.
Cool. So then, for me, it was, switching gears was huge, and my martial arts needed it, and I just absolutely love it. But funny story, like I just did some instructor training a couple months ago, and I've been doing Krav for like 5 years or something like that, and just this last time, Carlin, Nathan Carlin came up to me and said, "You're finally looking like you're a Krav Maga student," like after that long, he's like, "You finally look like you're doing Krav Maga and you're not doing karate anymore." And
how long did we hear that though?
Oh, for a long time. Yeah. It's just, Mr. Cox always says, karate, same, Krav Maga, same, martial arts, same. There's a lot of things in the martial arts that is very similar, but there's a lot of things in Krav Maga and Tag Soo Do that are very different, and I'm used to stepping in, like more of like with my feet first and keeping my hips underneath me and all that kind of stuff. So learning how to lean in and fall on people was very difficult for me. And so that's something that I love doing now. And it's just something that's so much just a part of my martial arts now. And very early on, I started adding it into my kids and adults program in karate before I had a Krav Maga program. And I never really thought I would ever have a Krav Maga program because I was too close to Mr. Cox in location wise. My studio was only about 10 minutes away from him in West Hills. And he kind of told me that early on that probably wouldn't be a thing that I could do. And so then, a few years ago, I moved locations to Woodland Hills, and now I'm about, almost 20 minutes away from him. And as soon as I moved, I asked him, I said, "Hey, can I have a Krav Maga program now once I move?" And he was all for it, right? And so once I opened up that new location, I also started the Krav Maga program at the same time. And it's totally awesome. And I'm so glad that that's now something that we can do.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Well, let's finish up with Mr. Cox and his story of finding Krav Maga and making it part of his school, because I can remember even in the early years when I was teaching for you, back in the early 90s, you were already searching for that and doing a lot of other training. What was it about Krav Maga that grabbed you, and why did it become such a big part of your school?
Well, excuse me. I think what happened is I was invited to a gun seminar by Darren Levine, a personal invitation. I had heard of Krav, and I just kind of fluffed it off, because I just kind of heard, they're just super aggressive, and I just felt that there's nothing that they're doing that's any different than what I'm doing. I just felt that way, to be honest with you. And then I went to a gun seminar, and when I went to the gun seminar, I was higher rank, and then they had people there that were beginners, and in a 4-hour time frame, people with no experience could possibly defend themselves from a gun being pointed in their face. And us with experience that's never seen that before, because we've done some of the most stupidest shit ever with knives and guns, okay, ever. I mean, it's so stupid. And I remember doing it going, why are we doing this? You know what I mean? And when I left, I was like, I've got over 100 black belts, and none of them could defend themselves against a gun if it was pointed in their face. And I remember having that same feeling when we did the convention and Dave Myers came and tapped us all out on the ground. I remember that just like we brought ground in, and I remember leaving there going, I'm not being a self-defense instructor at this point. I need to change.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Mm-hmm.
that's how I started. And yes, you guys are right. I've always been an aggressive dude. I've always been above board with it when it came to self-defense, even in traditional. Everybody knows that I felt Tongsudo was weak in the self-defense aspect. I knew it right in the beginning. I went to Robert Bussey before I did Krav just to look at some other, stuff for self defense purposes, and that's how I came about, and then I pushed it to you guys because I know it added something to the traditional martial arts that we do,
Mm-hmm.
and and that's really how it all came about. Once I was allowed to do it, I'm not going to say it was easy. And there's many times I wanted to quit when I was going through instructor training because that was a bitch. There's nothing fun about it. And it really, after the first one, I remember saying I've never done anything this hard in my life as far as physical goes. And then I had to question that too. What the heck? What are we doing here? If that was the hardest thing, a yellow belt test I've ever done, including the black belt test, I mean, what are we doing here? And that was where my mind shift came, and it just made me more aggressive, I guess. I don't know. So
Is that possible?
But there's a lot of humility that comes with it too, guys. When you're training, and when I was going through instructor training, you got some guys that are we had some fighters up in there, you know what I mean? And the instructors themselves were no joke either. And there's a lot of fighting going on, and it was a humbling experience to strip yourself and be told that what you do is lame. Okay, I mean, that was probably the hardest thing that I had to hear, that all the stuff that I've done for years was lame and doesn't work and stuff like that, which I didn't agree with 100%, because that's why they had us teach kicking when we went through, because they lacked in that. But that was a humbling experience. But looking back on it today is the best thing that we've done. It's the best thing that you guys can do for yourselves, to go through it and make our students be able to protect themselves more, because ultimately that's really what my concern is when I'm sending my girl off, when your dads and you're sending your girl off somewhere, you want to be able to protect yourself. When you have a son, you want him to be able to be a humble beast, right? You want him to be a monster when the monster needs to come out. You need to have humility have integrity, and I think that's where it all comes about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, and Brandon said it as well, that it kind of made a shift in our focus in how we taught, because we were trained in a traditional martial arts where it was definitely more performance. It was all about being able to perform and make a one step look good, or a self defense technique look good, or your partner help you look good. But in reality, we were training more for show than we were go, right? And now we've got I think it's possible to have the best of both worlds.
Well,
honestly,
I do. I think as much as I enjoy the guys that can do 560 kicks and stuff like that. But I mean, is that really realistic when violence hits you?
Right.
It's not. You better be a freaking monster when the monsters come after you. Okay.
Yeah.
And pretty jump turning heel kicks isn't the shit that's going to save your life. When someone pulls a knife on you and wants to cut you from your testicles to your nose,
Right.
So,
well, with that being said, it brings up a topic, and I'll just leave this just to you, because we can really go off on this. But we see people like Master Ken, where we know that he is he's an actor. He's spoofing the martial arts, right? But there's some guys out there, and we've all seen some videos that are teaching some stuff that flat out will get people killed, and you just don't know, right? Like I'm just thinking of one in particular that we've all been looking at lately, and he's teaching some stuff that it's just going to get people. It's going to get people killed. I mean, and people don't know the difference, right? I mean, they look at that and go, maybe I'll try that. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, he's a jackass, is what he is. You're talking about the guy, the Detroit whatever the frick.
I wasn't going to name names, but yeah, there you go.
Well, that's him, and he gets called out on a pretty regular. But I'm not really into calling everybody out on some BS. But man, when it comes to guns, and you're telling people when guns are being pointed in your face, and you don't really have an understanding of what that means. You're not a listen. If you're gonna prepare for a worthy opponent, you have to be a worthy opponent. You know what I mean? And so when you do stuff like that, I just I'm flabbergasted at what people will put out there to get people hurt. You guys are all. I mean, I've told you guys this before. Yes, I'm all your instructor, right? But there comes a certain point where my instruction is more life experience for you than it is physical at this point, right? Where you guys become my peers and my training partners more than just my students. You know what I'm saying? And if there's anything that I'm super proud to watch you guys do is how do you teach and how you have knowledge of what we're teaching and the whys behind it. Because that's really what is going to save someone's life if they're going to listen to you and you be the instructor in the room that knows and the how and whys and the history of why we do what we do. And that I think is a beauty. And so, yeah, I think I think everybody jumps on the Krav Maga wagon. Listen, with Taekwondo schools, we're on every corner. Krav Maga is now like that. Once it came about that way, and that's why the organization that we have is I'm looking for guys that are students of Krav Maga. You know what I mean? It just happens to be you guys. I have a lot of you guys, and you guys just been under me, and you guys been with me for 10 or 15 years. You guys know me, I know you, and we iron sharpens iron. You guys are a group of warriors that I enjoy teaching and training. We get to talk smack to each other and we build each other up. So, yeah, that's why I don't know. I just kind of stay away from that and teach the best Krav that we can teach. That's going to save lives.
Let me jump in there because you touched on this a little bit, and I don't know if you saw it in the comments. And I know, Jay, you got to get going, so I'm going to let you answer this one first. But my wife is actually watching, and she said, I'd love to hear what you guys have learned from each other as peers and school owners. So, Jay, what have you learned from the group or anyone in particular? I think we've all learned, and we've commented a lot on what we've learned from Mr. Cox and our respect for him. What have you learned from some of the other instructors on the panel?
I've learned something from everybody. I'll start off with this. Most people know this, but Chris was my first instructor. He was also one of my training partners, him and John and Tori. And I literally was looking, when we were talking about different organizations, I was looking at the Alliance first. But what I was learning from Chris, he was talking to me one night. He said, well, we're no longer with Alliance. I said, I don't care, man. I said, what you're teaching here, this is what I want. And that right there set the whole foundation for me. All of you guys have taught me something, whether it's the way you teach, it's the way you run your business, maybe it's the way you teach one technique. And I try to learn from each one of you. Unfortunately, with me and Carson, I've only got to spend a little time with him, which is more of a fun time in Vegas, which it was a clean time because I was doing 75 hard. But, the rest of you guys, I'm always learning from. If I want to keep my mind open and learn something new every day that I can from everybody. And I think that's the way it is. And all of us have something to offer. All of us have been doing different things. And you have very successful businesses, and if you keep a closed mind, how are you going to learn anything? And that's just the way I look at it.
Well, and if I'm not mistaken, Jay is the only one on this panel that does not teach martial arts full time, meaning that this is his only profession. Is that right? Everybody else here only teaches martial arts, does not have a career outside of the martial arts. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
I heal during the day and hurt during the night.
There
right.
you go. There you go. Well, Jay, hopefully you can stay on for a minute longer, but if not, thank you for being with us today and sharing some time and sharing some of your experience. I know that, our students from each one of the schools, whether they're watching this live or they watch it a little bit later, are going to really benefit because it's stories like this and just that education or the background that people really kind of latch onto. I know for myself and many of you, listening to our instructors talk and tell the story and the background and all these answering these questions is what they hang on to. So, Jay, thanks for hanging out.
No worries. One last thing to say, and I'll be gone, guys. For anybody watching, one thing you'll see with all of us guys on here, Master Cox hit it on the head a while ago when he's talking about how he wants to build his family. the guys on this panel here right now, and there's a couple of close ones here, John, who just left, and some of my other friends, Tori and stuff. This is my family. And I put this out on social media earlier. Just because you're blood does not mean you're family. And for me, I will share things with these guys on this panel that I will not share with anybody else. They know who I am. They know things about me. And guys, that's the thing. One thing about Krav, and you'll hear us have little hashtags about Krav family. We have built a family, and it's getting bigger, and we're there to help each other. And I want to thank all of you guys.
Cool. Thanks, Jay. Appreciate it, bud.
All right, see you guys.
See you, Jay. It's good seeing
Hey,
you.
Carson, I know you got to
Hey,
jump
Jay.
off too because you got to go do some striping. Do you want to answer that question real quick? Is there something that you've learned from somebody else on this panel that you want to share with the group?
Sure. I know this is not what you're asking, but I will say this. I know we all talk about Master Cox. I really appreciate the fact that when my dad passed away, Master Cox, he really stepped up and he's always been there for me to answer any questions, anything we needed, and he's just really took me under his wing. So it's nice to hear all of you guys say very similar things about him. That says something about the person he is and the integrity he has as a man, which is not something that it's easy to have nowadays. As far as the rest of you guys, same thing I've met a lot of you guys in and out, and I've got to sit in seminars with some of you guys. I've also got to be in Vegas with some of you guys. I think Jason, to be honest, I love the way you run your school. There's times all the time I hit Jason up. Hey, Jason, can I steal this? Can I steal this? And I'll straight up steal his stuff posted on Facebook, and I don't feel bad about it at all, by the way. But Jason, I love the way you run your school, and I love how consistent you are with everything you do. I think no matter what you do, you pour your heart into it, and that's why you have such a good following, good student base. Same thing with all you guys. I look forward to getting to knowing you better. I'll be down next week for the AKMF award banquet. I'm looking forward to hanging out and talking to everybody, and just I'm ready to just relax a little bit. I don't know if I'll really be relaxing, but it'd be something different. I'm ready for something different. So I thank you so much for having me on, Jason.
Very cool. Well, thanks, Carson, and we'll see you next Friday. That's a reminder to everybody watching. Next Friday, AKMF Awards Banquet will be held at Freedom Church. The post is up on our Facebook pages as well as in our groups. If you'd like more information, you want to get registered, just please let us know. And we'd love to have you all, our Krav Maga family, joining us for a night of recognizing instructors and students. And just like Carson said, enjoying some time together, getting to know each other off the mat. So let's just finish this question real quick. Chris, is there anything that you've learned from someone else on the panel?
Yeah, for sure. I'll second what Carson said as far as a lot of the business side. I mean, obviously, Master Cox was integral in helping me set up. Almost 11 years ago now, setting our school up. But then recently, over the last couple of years, Jason, you and some of the background that you have and the things you've done with Century and stuff like that coming in has radically changed the way that we even do our programs at our school. We've almost completely adopted what you're doing over there, and that's been huge for the school. That's been absolutely huge, and even just the mindset as far as running the business. I know at one point, again, a couple of years ago, we were talking about this, and you made a comment about we're not a gym, we're a school. So why are we competing with gyms? So when we're talking about membership and stuff like that, and I really took that to heart, because I always joke around about black belt in our program. Start to black is 4 years. So I always joke around and say that basically by the time you get your black belt, you've got a bachelor's in badass. And so I always make that joke. But then when you turn around and said, why are we competing, business wise? Why are we trying to compete with gyms when we're actually schools? And I'm like, wow, you know what? Like, that was just this major shift for me. I'm like, yeah, you know what? We're not a gym membership. This is, I am a school. Burbank Krav is a school, and our curriculum, we teach self-defense. That is my program. And it's just completely changed the way that I looked at my business. It's been really awesome. On the flip side, as far as the techniques go, I've done instructor courses with all of you guys now, and now, especially at this point, I'm the only guy on the stream right now that does not have a karate background, does not have a Tong Soo Do background, and you guys love to give us Krav students crap about our kicks, rightly so. And so getting to do some of these instructor seminars with you guys And I even said it this past year when we were doing all those instructor seminars. I told Carlin, I even told you guys that, you know, one of the things I wanted to walk away with was a better understanding of how to not only just do some of our different kicks, but teach them. And getting to watch you guys teach that and picking your brain about that and stuff like that. Has been huge. It's I mean, I'm still nowhere near your level, but like that's been one of those things that's been really fun, getting to see people from, have you guys with this very traditional martial arts background, coming from Tang Soo Do, coming on in to Krav. And, I appreciate what you guys are bringing in, because the way I look at it, yeah, we're all going to talk crap about each other, but at the same time, there's still this vested interest in not just, okay, I want Moore Park to be better than Burbank, or I want, Woodland Hills to be better than Citadel, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's like, no, let's all raise the bar together. And anytime that I see a weak part in my technique or in my teaching, knowing that I've got this entire group of guys that I can call you guys up at any point and go, hey, I'm struggling getting this point across. How do you teach this? And you do. And, Jay, I've been announcing to my students about the 22nd with you coming on out and helping us with our kicks. And so I'm looking forward to hosting you on that Tuesday night. That's gonna be a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, it'll be great. And John Haw is still repeating your mantra of when we're working on bear hugs, base create space, hit him in the face. Like he's got like this rhyme. It's perfect. He's using it. So
that's awesome, man. He was fun to
thank
work with. He was a lot of fun to work with, dude.
He's a great kid. So
Yeah,
I'm so
sure.
happy he's doing what he's doing. Hey, Robbie, you wanna drop some comments real quick about some things that you've learned from some of the other school owners? Hold on, let me unmute you real quick. There we go. Can you unmute?
There we go. I found the button. Okay.
There it is.
Just like what everyone else was saying, whenever I'm with you guys, training with you guys, I try to become a sponge. And it's like I've learned something from everyone, and more than one thing. I mean, it could be business skills, it could be life skills, it could be parent skills, it could be husband skills, martial arts skills, it could be Krav skills. And like what Master Cox kind of started off with, this whole thing is that iron sharpens iron. And hopefully you guys learned some things from me. And I know, when I first started on martial arts school, I still don't know much about business, but my business got a lot better, got a lot stronger just by hanging out with you guys, by Mr. Cox being one of my mentors, Jason, you, and Brandon. I know I've asked you questions over the years. Hey, did you try this? Have you done this? Have you done that? What works? What doesn't? And, yeah. And again, it kind of comes back to being part of this AKMF, that we're like a really close group of friends. And, someone else just said it, sometimes we're able to, go to one another and, spill our guts, ask questions. It's a constant thing where when we're together, maybe it could be a test, our students are testing. I might hear, Jason Flame say something, and I'm kind of looking around like, oh, I like the way he teach that, or the way he said that. I'm looking at Brandon, the way he's doing something. And yeah, it's a constant thing of learning. It's great. So I've learned from all of you guys, and I plan on learning more, of course. So thank you.
Yeah, of course. Brandon, round out the answering that last question, then we'll move on. Got a couple more questions to answer.
Absolutely, yeah. Just like some of you guys have kind of said, I mean, I think what's been created here by Mr. Cox is just this camaraderie and this family atmosphere that we have. And, Mr. Cox has pretty much, he saved my business. I went to him after I took over the studio in the first place, and he gave me the advice that he gave me, saved my business from I was bleeding students to actually knowing how to run a business, right? And so he helped me with that. And he helps me all the time anytime I have a question, business wise, martial arts wise. But he's been huge like that across the years. And Jason, recently, going to you for advice and the same stuff, business advice. And who was it that said that they love the way that you run your school? Was that Parson that said that? You can see a lot of those things that you do in your school and my school, and because I've taken a lot of your advice recently, and you've really taken my school to the next level, and I fully give you a lot of the reasons behind my success to the advice that you have given me. And that's just in the business side of things. And then if you look at this, the martial arts side of things, I respect each and every one of you so much as martial artists and teachers that I know, Chris, the first time I met you and saw you do Krav Maga, I was floored. I was like, oh my gosh, this dude is next level, right? Like I looked at Nathan Carlin and he's like insane to me also. But then when I saw you, I'm like, man, that guy's technique is so clean and crisp that I could not wait to start training with you. And you know, through our the instructor training is getting a little closer to you, and as far as like knowing you as a person has been awesome. And going to you with questions and helping you. You've helped my techniques on different gun and rifle techniques, and even some of the bear hugs that were mentioned earlier. Robbie, you know, training with you all throughout, you know, from yellow all the way through and stuff like that has been so awesome too, because just seeing you, who you are is, and how humble you are and how skilled you are is amazing, right? When I see you do your martial arts and your Krav Maga, it's just, you can, you know, when I think my kicking is good, when I look at Robbie, I go, man, I've got a long way to go still, right? You know, like your kicking is next level, but then also seeing where you've become, where you come from too, and what your Krav Maga is now too is just as good as now your kicking is too, and that's incredible. So I've learned so much from you in that sense too, and the respect side of things and the humble side of things, and just that mindset that you have. And you know, Jay, seeing you all throughout the years, though I've known you for a long time too, and just in martial arts side of things too, just training with you and being your partner through so many different tests has been so cool, getting to experience that with you. And I think, like Robbie said earlier, and iron sharpens iron, I think that while we're training and going through all of those tests together, we just keep pushing each other to grow and get better as we go. And you know, we're constantly kind of giving each other feedback during those tests, like, oh, try this, do that, you know, like, good job on that, like, try to do that, you know. And so constantly kind of helping each other there. And you know, John Viverka, who just left, man, that guy is an animal. And I remember the first time I saw him too, and just seeing him embody what Krav Maga is, and the way that he just looks like he will kill you, right, if you get on his bad side. And you know, just he's taught me so much over the years too. And you know, Jay's the same way. When he was, you know, he was on here earlier, and just seeing him for the first time too, I had no idea who this guy was, but seeing how he taught and seeing how he approached his Krav Maga and how clean he was, you know, it's just amazing how many people in this group of people who are just awesome martial artists, awesome teachers, and who just are so willing to give of themselves and to make everybody else around them better. And I think that's kind of what sets this group apart from other organizations, is that we just all grow so much because we all care, and we want everybody else to be successful and to do well in business, but also just to teach really good martial arts, you know, good Krav Maga.
Yeah, I
So
think
yeah,
you said
just
it.
so much.
I think you said it best when, you know, and you kind of named something with everybody, and everybody has their own unique talent, and every unique talent put together is what makes us so strong, right? You know, Chris has got his thing, Mr. Cox has got his thing, Brandon, Robbie, you all have your individual things, and then when you put us together, we kind of fill the gaps for each other. You know, one of the biggest things for me too is Mr. Cox has talked about this when he started training jujitsu, that it kind of brought back that warrior spirit in him, because you get so caught up, or at least I know I have, being a coach and being an instructor and being a business owner, and you lose that edge. And for Krav Maga and being around you guys and training with you guys has given me that edge again, and it helps hold me accountable too, because when I'm holding targets for Brandon getting the absolute crap kicked out of me, I'm like, dude, I need to step it up. Like, it's going to be my turn in a second. I got to go hard. I'm watching Robbie kick. I'm like, dude, I need to stretch more. I watched Chris the other day roll with my students, and I'm like, bro, how old are you? Because, like, I just don't know that I can go like that anymore. And we're pretty close in age, actually. I'm like, oh, damn it. Now I got to step up, you know, and it's like constantly that accountability factor of pushing ourselves to be better, because I can definitely remember a time, and we've probably all been there, where we're kind of feeling a little bit alone, and you don't really have that push. But that's where the team, really comes together, and that's what AKMF has really become is a team. We got a couple minutes left, and I want to answer this question because I know Dane's watching. He's always watching, and he sent me a bunch of questions. And Dane, I apologize, we can't answer them all, but he did ask this one here: how has the pandemic changed the way you run your schools in a permanent way? And I'll start real quick, and Dane knows this. Our school actually grew faster and better in the last year than in the past 10 to 15 years, both financially, in our student base. And the reason I think it is because it gave me a shock, like, oh crap, this could just put a fork in it and we'd be done. But it made me step up in every possible manner, in every area of customer service, of every little detail. I had to fill the gaps so that we weren't losing students. So I think that's how it's changed our school the most, is just it's made us really work that much harder for customer service and giving the best experience possible. So that's for me. How about you, Mr. Cox? What's a pandemic done and changed your school in a permanent way?
I think it got rid of a lot of riffraff. That's what I think, and it's brought those ones that really want to train out, and yeah, I think it's given you an appreciation for what we do. I think one thing that I talk about a lot because of the pandemic is we talk about getting vaccines, and this isn't a big anti-vaccine thing or anything like that because I'm vaccinated, but we talk about vaccines, we talk about boosters, we talk about masks, we talk about all this kind of shit, but we don't talk about health, and we don't talk about, hey, you got to be hard to kill. That includes health, not just technique. So I talk a lot about getting in better physical shape, getting in cutting out some sugar, lower your carbs a little bit, lose a little bit of weight, work on your fitness. Okay, so you can fight. You know what I mean? And if the battle's fighting COVID, then that's what it is. Your fitness will do it. If your battle is fighting violence, then you have to be a little more fit. And I just think that's what's changed the most, is to be an advocate for fitness and how to fight. Where self-defense is more than just punching and kicking and this. Self-defense has to do with fighting through your finances, fighting through your marriage, fighting through everything else. And I think that's even brought it to the forefront even more.
For sure. I don't know if it's Dave Kovar or Master Forbars or both, would often say that the very same thing, that self-defense is more than, and we all know this, self-defense is more than the kicking and punching, but self-defense is being healthy, being fit, being in shape, taking care of your body, eating healthy foods. Those are all things that help us to be stronger and help us to be a better fighter. Chris, how's the pandemic changed your school in a permanent way?
I'm gonna kind of second what both of you guys said. Master Cox calling it saying the riffraff is staying away. I've actually with some of my conversations with some of my guys, I've actually likened it to a forest fire. Like, all the dead wood got burnt out, and it just, all that did was just allow for new growth. And same with you, man. We have seen a huge just spike in membership over this pandemic, and I actually. Is a couple things, because I think one of the things that this has done is it really makes us look at risk management a little bit more. And every time we step out the door, we're managing some kind of risk. Whether it's possible car accident or this or that, and just watching how people have just excuse me, just completely gone into their shell, just so afraid of everything. And then I see these new students coming in the middle of a pandemic. When we reopened back in June of 2020, riots going on and stuff like that. I was telling everybody, I said, I hate to put it this way, but defund the police has helped fund Burbank Krav, because we had a lot of people coming in very, very scared of what was going on. And so, when I look at those students that came in at the height of the pandemic, going, all right, these are people that have weighed those risks, and find that it's more beneficial for them to come to my studio and train. And all that that's done is just wanted me to get just give them everything. And so, I think it's really, if nothing else, it's really helped us step up our game, and making sure that helping us appreciate our students more. And I've just seen a major mindset, mindset just shift through all of this. So yeah, I mean, it's I hate to say this, but it's helped. It's helped my school. So there's your answer, Dan. How has it permanently changed things? It's helped it. It's helped us step up our game a lot.
How about you, Brandon?
Yeah, so I think just like what you kind of said, Jay, is it really did make you make me do things better, right? It really made me step up my game and run the school in a much more efficient way. But I would say for me, the biggest thing that happened was it really helped me figure out who I am and what my values are, and that I didn't need to appeal to everybody. Because before the pandemic, I would say that my mindset was I need to get everybody in here, right? I want every single person in here training, and I'm going to try to, be everything for everyone. And during the pandemic, it's really kind of helped me kind of focus my goals on, like, what, I want people here that align with my values, and I'm going to teach my values. And if you like it, you can come, and that's going to be great. But if maybe we don't align, then maybe there's a different place for you, and that's fine. I don't have to teach everybody, because there's a lot of different schools around, and they can go to other schools that align with their values more. So I think for me, it really did help me just know who I am and teach my values and teach my martial arts that I'm going to teach. And just like everybody else has been saying, I've noticed that it's completely blown up my school too. Like the memberships is way up, bigger than it's ever been before. And I think that there's people that just are ready to go, but I also think that it's all the other factors also that it's kind of just helped that.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Robbie?
It's almost going to be the exact same thing, like all you said. In the beginning of the pandemic, it actually taught me to be more flexible with myself. I know all of you guys did the Zoom classes, which to me, that was a nightmare. Teaching little Johnny and Susie, martial arts and Krav, and then, us going outside and adapting to the outside environment, which was pretty cool for a while. And then us moving back in here. But, the ones that didn't want to be here, I just kind of like what Brandon said. It was almost kind of nice where for maybe more last year and into this year, I mean, of course, anyone who walks through this door, I'm there for them and want to do what I can for them. But they don't want to be here. If my mindset's a little different than theirs, then, I have no problem with them leaving. And, I can go recommend them a different school. And I've done that plenty of times. My attendance, everything has grown after the pandemic. At first it was a little bumpy, it was a little scary. I think we were all scared for a while. But then as things were getting back in, you can say, in some type of order, I think my school's stronger. The students are closer to, together and whatnot. And yeah, it only helped, like Brandon said, or even Chris said, it made me, I think, a better teacher and a better business owner too. So.
Yeah, all good stuff. I think that we've all learned a lot. One thing that I'll add that, and Dane, again, knows this in our school, is that it has also allowed me to elevate other people to leadership positions that may not otherwise. Everybody knows John Haw, and John Haw, when we started, was an assistant instructor, and we put him on Zoom, and I wasn't sure what the energy level was going to be, because he's a pretty low key, laid back dude. Super awesome martial artist, very talented, but he was still new, and put him on Zoom, and his entire personality changed. And we bring Miss Emily and Joshua Strassman and Garrett Brossler, three of my assistant instructors now. They may not have been teaching because there wasn't really an opening or an opportunity. So it's allowed other people to step up, and we still have more people on their way. And I agree with you, Dane. Mr. Haw has definitely gone to the next level. I mean, he's amazing. He's only 20 years old, and he's running the school like a champ. So I have one question from Robbie, from one of your students, Rich Haggerty. and I'm just reading it from what he sent to me. He said, I learned Krav from Robert and Ventura. This may come across as an abstract question, but let me line it up like this. When I go to the store, I buy a product and I leave with that product. For each of you, what product would you say students obtain after they learn the skills? What do you think, Chris?
I saw that on. I saw when he asked that question. I mean, and it's been fun, kind of fun thinking through that. I'm going to go right to what Master Cox and you were talking about earlier about. I actually don't even refer to what I teach as self defense. I mean, yes, it is. It's Krav and self defense. We all know that, but I look at more. I actually refer to it almost more as self preservation. It's much more holistic than just the kicking and stuff like that. It is the fitness. It is the lifestyle stuff like that. It's getting right in your mind. It's not just making your body stronger, it's making your mind stronger. And so, what's the product? Is it a tangible product that they can walk home with? Tangible, no. Can they go home with it? Absolutely. And I really do think that that's one of the things that my program is all about. It is a much more holistic approach. And I tell everybody, I'm like, I it's one of those things where, from the self-defense point of view, I hope and pray that the things that I teach, my students never have to use as far as like the self-defense goes. But I also know that mindset, that fortitude that they're learning on the mat, digging deep for some people, that yellow belt test for a lot of our students, I think you guys would say the same thing. For a lot of our students, that our first yellow belt test is the hardest thing that most people have ever done in their entire lives. And when I watch somebody think that they're going to die on the yellow belt test, and then afterwards they get through, and just that look of accomplishment, they're like, oh my goodness, I can actually do this. That's absolutely awesome. And then to turn around and like see them a couple of years later, and you have them do a yellow belt cauldron again, and they're bored out of their mind, because it's so, like, I remember when this used to kill me almost, and now I'm like, I can't wait till this is done, just because I'm bored. And just watching that grow. So I mean, what's my product? A better way of living.
Love it. And that's a great way to end that. Brandon, how about you? What would you answer that? How would you answer that question?
I would say very similar. Yeah, but I would say we teach kids and we teach adults and we teach different programs and things like that. But for the kids, it's the parents are putting in those kids, and what they should be getting out of that is not just somebody who can fight and somebody who can defend themselves, but it's somebody who can do those things and who can get stronger and be more confident, but also the life skills behind that, and being more disciplined as a person, and just being able to make hard decisions and mature, and we're teaching these kids these skills in martial arts, but we're teaching them life skills through the martial arts, and adults, it's the same kind of thing. You get people all across the different walks of life, and they're coming together, and they're having some sort of unity and togetherness, but then they're learning how to kick and to punch and to do these martial arts and defend themselves, but then that's creating more confidence in them, and it's getting them to be more fit, and like Chris said, it's learning how to have that, or just having a better life. You're more fit, you're more flexible, you're more confident in life when you go around and walk around and just go to the gas station. You have that understanding of that, hey, I can, I'm my own weapon almost, and so it's yeah, so it's a lot of different things, but it's that physical skill mixed with those life skills that martial arts instills in everybody.
Mr. Cox, what would you add to that?
What you would take, I think when you're pressure tested, your confidence will grow, and as your confidence grows, so does your self-esteem, and as your self-esteem grows, so do you as a human. So I just feel that that's probably what it is. I like to put people under pressure to see how they react. If you're around me enough, a lot of things I do is just a test anyway, just to see how you react, right? What are you going to say? What are you going to do? And the same
Or what
thing.
What are you not going to say?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Well, it's probably better not to say things. You guys do learn that after a while. I think that's just what you're going to take. If you know have that type of analogy, what are you going to take from it? I believe that pressure is going to build confidence. Confidence is going to build self-esteem. Self-esteem is going to build better humans.
Love it.
Yeah, Master Cox. I remember one time you and I were having a conversation. You said everybody thinks that that the map builds the character. You said, but it doesn't. It reveals your character.
It
And
absolutely
I mean
does.
that was, man. You said that to me, God, 12 years ago, 13 years ago, and I still remember that conversation. So yeah, it's pretty awesome. It
Yeah.
definitely reveals.
Yeah, that is a powerful statement that we've heard many times. Robbie, what would you add, or what would you say your product is? And obviously, I know you agree with a lot of what was said.
Right,
Anything
right.
specific that wasn't said?
Well, whenever anyone walks through the door, and I know all you guys do it too, we always ask, why are they here? What are they looking for? And I think that answer can vary depending on the person. You know, if we have a very fit, strong female, I mean, you know, she's probably not seeking fitness, but she's maybe seeking, a stress relief, an outlet, maybe, someone who was a victim of a, sexual assault or domestic violence. Maybe they are seeking self-defense. And to sum it up, I mean, mindset. And I don't say life sentence, but I say a new way of living, a new journey of training and whatnot. So, but kind of like what everyone said, my answer, I guess, can vary, but I'm thinking more mindset and whatnot.
Hmm.
So yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, when you walk into our school, when you take your very first introductory lesson, there's four words that I think that are really key, and they're four words that help you to be successful in life, successful on the mat, successful in pretty much anything you do. And everybody mentioned it. Confidence is number one. When you can learn to have confidence in yourself through achievement, when you can learn to have confidence enough in your skill to protect yourself, confidence is the number one. Number two is focus. Having focus and awareness is key in a self-defense situation. It's also key in getting good grades at school or paying attention to mom and dad, listen to your coach on the field. But having focus is second. Number three is discipline. When you have enough discipline to do what you know you're supposed to do without being reminded, you're going to have a lot more success on the mat. You're going to have a lot more success at school. You're going to have a lot more success at home. And the last one is commitment. And this is where a lot of people fall short. When you do not have commitment, you cannot really gain any of those things. So you have to make a commitment to your training so that even when it's not fun, even if you don't want to, even if it's super hard and you fail, when you make a commitment to do something, you will be more likely to be successful. So I show them my four fingers and I say, you got to have confidence, focus, discipline, and commitment. And when you take all of those, that's your success. That's your success in anything that you do. So I would say that is my product in my school, and something that from day one we talk about, not just in my Little Dragons program, not just in the Krav Maga program, but for everybody in general. And it's something that I teach my children as well. You have to have those four things. So I want to end it with a couple quick fun questions. If you were not a martial arts school owner, what would you be doing, Robbie?
Law enforcement used to be an answer of mine. I'd be a school teacher. I enjoy helping and making people grow and learn. Making a positive impact in this world. So a school teacher, yeah.
Brandon, how about you? If you weren't a martial arts school owner, what would you do?
Well, I have a degree in IT, so I would probably be in IT, but I hated it. I did not like it. So I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Maybe on Broadway. No.
I could see that. I could see that. How about you, Chris? Chris, if you weren't a martial arts school owner, martial arts instructor, what would you be doing?
All right. So is this what I would actually be doing or what I would want to do?
Either or both.
Okay, fine. So what I would want to do is be a trust fund baby. But not gonna happen. So I keep talking to mom about that, but it's not happening. So whatever. No, actually, before I started doing this, I was actually a web developer. So a little bit of design, but more on the database side. So I'd basically be I'd be a web geek. So, because that's what I am anyways. So, that's cool.
Very cool. Mr. Cox.
A homicide detective is what I would have wanted to be. I wanted to be that for a long time since I was a young kid. That's probably what I
awesome.
would have done.
These are all interesting things. Well, many of you know, many of you know that in my spare time, or at least I used to do it a lot more, but I always wanted to be, if I wasn't going to be, I had two things. I wanted to be a martial arts school owner and instructor. I knew that from the time I was 14. But the second was always to be in the WWE and be a professional wrestler. So I got to kind of live that dream by doing it for a bit. But yeah, that or the UFC, something in that area. Robbie, ask a question to the group that you want an answer for.
Wow. Wow. That maybe come back to me. I'm trying to think of something.
Okay.
Yeah. Give me.
All right.
Yeah, give me a minute.
I know Brandon's going to ask us about our favorite song or something like that.
Yeah, no, right. Let's see. A question for the traditional martial arts out there. Do you, now that you've been doing Krav Maga and traditional martial arts right now, do you have a preference now? Because I know that we had, we grew up in American Taekwondo, and that'll always kind of be like at our heart. But do you prefer one over the other?
I'll answer first. If I had my choice, I would teach Krav Maga first and only first, and do forms later as an additional part of what we teach, so that they have the base skills in self-defense. So, and it's so much easier to teach. It's easier to teach someone basic punching, palm strikes, basic kicking than teaching forms.
Yeah, Robbie.
I actually, yeah, I think I would, and teach Krav first, because I think Krav Maga is kind of like becoming a paramedic, and one's becoming a doctor, right? Not saying Krav is easy to learn, but to teach someone basic self-defense and Krav mentality, short period of time, right? But becoming a very strong traditional martial artist, look at how long we've been training. 20, 30 years. I mean, it takes a long time.
Some of us 40.
40. I didn't say it. But yeah, so I think Krav Maga overall, and then kind of like what Master Flame just said, teaching forms maybe later, because teaching forms sucks. It stinks, right? So yeah,
it's just harder. I wouldn't say that it sucks, because I love forms, but
same.
When you put the two together, if I could teach you how to punch really hard, really fast, versus do a low defense, I'd rather teach you to punch really hard, really fast.
Right.
How about you, Mr. Cox?
Mr. Cox.
I would never give up my what I learned in my traditional style. I believe it formed the habits that make you a better Krav practitioner. I think those with strong backgrounds in traditional styles become a better Krav Maga instructor. It cannot go the other way around. Krav Maga black belts do not. It's very hard for them to go do karate and have the skills that they need for that, to build that. Karate builds you stuff from the inside out. You're stretching your everything else, and I just would never. I would never give up my traditional. Is it fun? Is it funner? Well, I would much rather punch you in the face than punch the air. That I can tell you that. So,
yeah.
Right.
All right, nice, Robbie, your turn.
Okay. Well, I'm almost taking your question. Motivational music. If you guys are listening to something that pumps you guys up, if you guys are working out, if you guys are training, I don't know, what's everyone's maybe favorite artist to listen to, or a type of music, or a specific song that as soon as you hear it, it's go time. I don't know, whoever wants to start first. Maybe Brandon, have you go first here.
Oh geez, yeah. If I'm
anything by Britney Spears for Brandon.
Exactly, right? That's exactly what I was gonna say. Hit Me Baby One More Time is just number one. I don't know. I would say I love Imagine Dragons is a big one for me. If it's personal, it's more like I love the Beatles. Anything by the Beatles, I listen to that all the time. But training wise, like I love Imagine Dragons and like stuff like that.
Mr. Cox.
Yeah.
Well, I think that, believe it or not, as intense of a dude I am, I don't always like intense music to work out to. I know how weird that sounds. There's times that I like, I'm a big country fan anyway, but I like to hear mellow music. I like to hear 80s type music. And when I'm lifting iron and stuff like that, and then there's times that Metallica has to come on, so we can do Enter the Sandman and kill everybody in the room. But believe it or not, as intense dude as I am, I like mellower music when I work out. I don't know why that is.
Chris. Oh, yeah, unmute.
So, okay, sorry about that. So kind of like Master Cox, where it's like it kind of depends on what workout or what exercise I'm doing. So there are times when especially if I'm just like rolling or something like that, if we're grappling, I'm actually like 0.7 more Chiba, just something that just kind of flows like that. Just kind of gets me to that, and just an idea of just flowing. But when it comes time to hitting stuff, every Monday morning I've got a group of my guys that we get together. It's all of our higher ranking guys. We get together. We have a little workout group called Punch Monday in the Face, and it's basically we'll do different circuit training and then we fight, and then circuit training and then we fight, and it goes on for anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour, and that is all metal. I'm a huge fan. This past year, I was introduced to Alien Weaponry. They're a metal band out of New Zealand, and apparently that was my number one played artist on Spotify last year. I had no idea. It also helps that my 7-year-old son loves metal. So we get in the car and he's immediately asking for fast music, loud music, and I turn it on. He goes, "Dad, I turn it louder." I'm like, "All right, cool." And so I turn that up. So he's a big fan of Alien Weaponry also. So yeah, so kind of depends on what I'm doing, but I'll usually lean towards when I'm working out something much harder.
And Jason, what's yours?
Well, Dane answered, and Mr. Cox always loves to bust my chops. But if you walk in my school and 80s is not playing, it's just not a normal day. Like I walk in and it's the first thing I say, "Alexa, play 80s classic rock." So that's like pretty much the norm. But when I'm training, when I'm working out, I mean, the song "Walk" by Pantera gets me jacked. Like I just want to fight everyone and lift the heaviest weights possible. Metallica is always a go-to. Iron Maiden is my favorite band of all time, but like 80s is just my simple go-to. Chris Crouch, question for the group.
All right. So my question is thinking like lower level techniques. Okay. So think yellow, orange, green. What is your favorite technique to teach? In some of those lower levels, because once we hit the upper levels, we got rifle, gun, knife, a whole lot of stuff like that. But what's your favorite technique to teach from like the 3 first levels?
Who you want to call on first?
Let's see. Jay, why don't you go?
So if I'm gonna teach a technique, I like to teach knees because I like people to see that like that could be your finishing move right there. I mean, a knee ends a lot of things.
Cool. Brennan?
I love teaching gun from front. I feel like I'm channeling Mr. Cox when I do it. I just love teaching. I don't know why. I just love teaching gun from front, even if we're just teaching redirects or something like that. I just love teaching.
Yeah, cool. Robin?
I know you said one technique. I'm going to kind of start with shelling, elbows, and knees. Shelling's number one. You can use offense, defensively. You can work with a 3-year-old to learn how to shell something, falls down on them, a loud noise happens. I mean, we've all talked about it. I mean, shelling, all these various ways. And just like what Jason Flame says, elbows and knees. They're very short, sweet, to the point. Almost everyone can learn it. And very effective.
Cool. Mesh Cox?
Left hook, right straight.
I thought you were going to say
level be ridge hands. I know.
It was inside defense. Inside defense counter is one of my most favorite things to do, especially the front hand. But left hook is my baby.
Nice. That's cool. Cool.
You and John Hackelman with the left hook.
Right.
All right, Mr. Cox, you get the last question of the day for the group.
So here's my question: how important is it for black belts to continue testing and further their skill?
Absolutely. There's a difference between somebody who earned their black belt and somebody who is a black belt. I have a lot of students that got their black belt. They earned their black belt, and I'm not gonna diminish that that accomplishment. But they're not black belts at my school anymore. So extremely important.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. Yeah, I think that I was just talking to a class last night that, you know, even when you just take a week off, you can see your technique degrade. You know, you take like a month off, right? And you're already come back, you know, things are more sore. You don't feel as flexible. You don't feel like as fluid in your technique, you know, and it's just important to continue training and continue furthering your skills. And so for black belts, it's just because you got a black belt doesn't mean that you're like some kind of like something on another level where you don't have to train anymore, right? Skill goes away. Still, skill does not stay, and so you have to keep furthering it and improving it and continue working on it for it to stay there.
Yes, I'm stepping. It's the same. You know, if you know, and I'm one to, you know, I just actually, it's funny that Brandon just said this the other night. I said this the other night, and I even said, usually it's what the last 3 months you've been doing, right? And 1 week, and I totally get what Brandon's saying, but you know, if the last 3 months you haven't been doing anything, I mean, you can start easily gain weight. You're out of your conditioning, your techniques to start falling apart. It's highly important to just keep training. I mean, I've seen black belts of mine that come back over a year, 2 years. They come back and I'm just being honest. You know, orange belts. I mean, mid ranks can end up smoking them. And, you know, it's one of those things. Again, it's called a lifestyle. I tell people, fine, if you guys need to take a break, take a break. Don't ever think of martial arts, self-defense, Krav Maga as a life sentence. It's a lifestyle. It's a change of lifestyle. So, yeah, you have to continue training and practicing, or it does go away, you know, especially if you really need it. So
what do you think, Jay?
Well, I'm going to answer it in a couple different ways. One, with a question: When am I taking my second qualification that I get to do privately with you? You just let me know. And by the way, you know, just to say, I think that I have black belt testing that day, but I think that I'm the only one that qualified the last time. But the second thing for me is that I think that testing and ranking is important in some cases. Sometimes I think it's better for our students to see us rank and to see us lead by example that way, because you know, I'm currently debating on whether I promote test for 8th degree in Tong Soo Do, because I don't really have anybody below me, and I have an instructor above me that I'm not comfortable moving. So you know, at the higher levels, it's I'm at a sticking point right now. But as far as in Krav Maga, it gives me purpose in my training. It gives me a reason to train. It gives me an opportunity to show my students that you know, that's the way, and so that's what I'm going to do.
Well, those were all good answers. So that means everybody here will be qualifying. So
yes, sir.
Looking forward to it.
You know what I mean? And if not, I'm going to refer you back to this podcast and the question that I posed, just so you know.
See, and that was a test, just so we all know. All right. Hey, guys.
I was like, oh, here we go. 29th is coming up. We're about to work.
Right.
You had to know it was coming.
Looking forward to it.
I think I could have asked it for him. Hey, well, guys, listen, we whittled down from 8 of us to 5 of us, and we're at an hour and a half. It was a pleasure spending time with you guys, chatting a little bit. I learned a lot about each one of you today, and I know that our audience will learn from this and enjoy it. Just want to remind everybody that's watching now or will watch later, don't forget, coming up next Friday, which is the 28th, AKMF Awards Banquet will be held at Freedom Church, and the address and the link to sign up will be in our Facebook groups and our Facebook pages. So all AKMF students are invited to attend. We'd love to see you guys there. And thank you guys for all your time today.
It was good today,
Awesome,
guys. I gotta roll because I got to get on the mat myself. I got a jiu-jitsu class. All right.
Awesome,
Thank
guys.
you.
All right, guys.
Hey, Jason
Thank
Flame,
you,
thank you for hosting us. We appreciate it. I'll get it out on my platform also.
Cool. Thanks,
All right.
guys.
All right. See you.
Catch you later.
Thanks, guys.
See you. Bye.
All right, guys.
Bye.